Hi, welcome to 5 Important Questions to Ask Before Starting a Business. I'm your presenter, Jeff Plordier, CPA. I'm the Managing Director of SP Tax. I'm really excited to share this with you. This is hopefully will be some really valuable information for you. I'm assuming either you're starting a business or you know someone who is. These are some 5 critical things you need to think about before you even start planning to open the doors, let alone opening the doors. If you already own a business, these are things you should think about now to help bring your business to the next level. This is primarily geared towards people who are starting a business, but you can ask these questions at any point in time and use them as a benchmark to improve your business. So let's launch right into things. I like to start with a bit about my background, since I know some of you may not know me. So I'm presenting today based on my experiences working with businesses as an enrolled agent and a CPA over the last couple of years. I used to work for one of the largest tax resolution companies in the U.S. I primarily worked with businesses that were in deep trouble. The IRS was banging on their doors. Their creditors were banging on their doors. They were literally on the verge of bankruptcy. In many cases, our advice to them was literally fire the employees, close the doors, we're done, get a job. That's how far gone it was. As I was doing this, though, I began to notice some recurring themes. So the 5 things I'm talking about today really tie into the themes that I noticed when I was working with distressed businesses. I run my own accounting, tax, and virtual CFO firm in LA. It's beautiful here. I love LA. I'm an Angelino. And I'm also affiliated with a UK-based marketing firm that we have some of our clients work with, as well as another accounting firm here that provides services that we don't offer in-house. So we really have a great system going. I'm a member of 3 professional associations, NAEA, CSEA, and NATP, and I take a lot of continuing professional education each year to make sure that I'm serving my clients in the best possible fashion, because especially in the tax realm, the law, it's an evolving field. Things change rapidly at the whim of the legislature or Congress. Most importantly, the thing I want you to take away today is I'm a real person. I'm not a sales guy. I'm not a marketing consultant. I'm not a coach. I'm a real person. This is not a sales pitch. I'm hoping to just add some value. Keep that in mind. So hopefully you get a lot of value from today's presentation. Let's launch right into it, since I know you're probably excited to hearing. Oh, I have to do this disclaimer first to please the lawyers in my area as an insurance carrier. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Don't take it as a substitute for professional advice. It may not be appropriate in all circumstances, and probably isn't. This presentation does not create any sort of client-professional relationship, and you should understand that if you're using the information here, it's at your own risk. I also apologize in advance for bad puns or jokes or technical glitches. If you know me, I'm famous for these. Should you have any technical glitches with this presentation, do feel free to contact me, and I will be more than happy to refund you the charge you paid to watch this webinar, which should be nothing. If you're paying to watch this, that was supposed to be a joke. It's bad, I know. But if you're paying to watch this, that's a real concern. Do contact me, because this is supposed to be free. So, like I said, my point is just to add value. I'm not trying to sell anything. So if you're watching this on another site and they charge you, please do contact me, and we'll take care of that right away. But let's get right into it, since I know I've talked enough for today about lawyerly things. So today we're going to talk about 5 key topics. Number 1, is there a need for X? X is whatever you're selling. Services or product, doesn't matter. It's the same thing for the purposes of today, where I'm thinking about selling it. Number 2, am I ready to do this? Number 3, what things do I need to think about before I launch? Number 4, what is my game plan for launching and growing the business? 5, what's my end game? How am I going to get there? These are some key things that tie into the themes I saw when I was working with distressed businesses at a resolution company. Is they had never thought of these things. If they had thought of these things before they went into business, chances are they would have never been my client. So we're going to get right into these. We'll see, and I think you'll see the themes, and if you can answer these questions satisfactorily, and you understand the answers to these questions, you should be in a good place starting your business and taking it to success. So let's launch right into it. So number one, is there a need for X? X is whatever you're selling, where I'm thinking about selling it. A lot of people miss this one. This was like 50% of the businesses I worked with. They never thought about whether there was a need for what they were selling, or even worse, they equated their interest and their desires with need. Just because you like something doesn't mean the general public likes something. You can ask anyone I know. I like a lot of things people don't like. And similarly, I hate a lot of things other people like. So people buy based on the perceived needs. And we're not going to get into the econ here. A need is a want. For the purposes of this presentation, they're the same thing. If people want something, it's a need to them. We're in a consumer society. Just accept it. Learn it, live it, love it. Great. If what you're selling isn't going to satisfy somebody's need, they're not going to buy it. You need to ask yourself, who's the ideal customer for what they're selling, for whatever you're selling. Again, product, service, it doesn't matter. You could be doing dermatology, you could be doing laser hair removal, you could be selling widgets, you could be selling ice cream, you could be selling plumbing services. Doesn't matter for the purposes of today's presentation. You still got to ask, who am I selling to? And are you placing it where they're going to see it? If you have a site-based business, location isn't necessarily everything. A average location can be offset by great marketing. Similarly, a great location can offset poor marketing. That's why a lot of businesses succeed. So if you open up an ice cream stand on Rodeo Drive, which is a nice area in Beverly Hills here, actually you'd have to do a frozen yogurt stand that would have to be gluten-free, but that's a story for another day. But if you open a gluten-free frozen yogurt stand on Rodeo Drive, you will probably do very well on a summer day and won't even have to market. People will just walk by. That's your marketing. But if you're opening this thing in say, Alaska during the winter, you're probably not going to do so well. So if you're selling stuff where your customers are going to buy it, you should do well in business from a sales standpoint. If not, it's going to be a total failure. It's going to be a disaster. And like I said, 50% of the businesses I've worked with never thought about this. Another thing to keep in mind, am I ready to do this? I'm not really talking about financial. I'm talking about financial aspects, but you need to think more about the emotional aspects and the technical skills here. Starting a business is nothing like being an employee. Your training, you probably had a traditional education. If you did it, that's great, wonderful. You have an advantage here. But you probably had a traditional education which trained you to do one thing: get a good job, keep that job, start a beautiful retirement plan, and move forward. That doesn't necessarily work today. I wrote a book on automation and how that's changing the accounting industry. It's changing every industry. You can't necessarily be tied down to a career anymore. And running a business is nothing like a career. So two types of people start businesses, I find. One is back to the wall. You're unemployed or unemployable. This is if you have skills that are no longer in demand. Think somebody who repairs typewriters as an example. If they learned how, they could be the best typewriter repairman, but if nobody's using typewriters, they're not making any money. The other one is ready for a change. This is people who are tired of trading time for money. So here I'm going to briefly talk about financial. With back to the wall, financial isn't necessarily a consideration. With ready for a change, it is. Back to the wall, you have nothing better to do. You have nothing to lose, literally, because you're already on the verge of bankruptcy or being homeless. So you've got nothing to lose. Ready for a change, you do have things to lose. So you need to understand some key things we're going to get into here. You need to understand you're in the business you're in the sales business first and foremost. If you're running a business, you are not in the business of whatever it is you're selling or whatever it is you are providing services for. It's all about hustle, hustle, hustle. If you're not good at hustle, hire someone who is. It'll be the best investment you ever did make. That being said, you need to know your business and personal burn rates. These are essentially, if you took in no money, what you'd have to pay to keep the lights on, keep the rent paid. Food ties into this. If you're running a business, it's your fixed monthly expenses. So if you took in no revenue from customers, what you'd have to pay for on a monthly basis. You need to know these because it's the basic step to profitability. You also need to know the cost to provide a service or good. If it exceeds the price, stop selling it. So if you sell ice creams and it costs you $12 to make an ice cream and you can sell it for 10 in your area, no good. Get out of that business. Similar, you want to be in a business where if people will buy an ice cream for $10, you're selling it. You're buying the products. It costs you $5, $8, something like that to provide it. And I know some of you in other areas are going to be like, $10 ice creams. That's a ripoff. Well, you have been to Rodeo Drive on Beverly Hills, my friend, and enough there. So you need to know the cost to provide a service or good. And if it ever exceeds the price, you need to cut costs drastically or stop selling it. These three things together, your burn rates, your two burn rates, and cost to provide a service or good are the basic financial numbers you need to know in any business. So let's move right along into what things do you need to think about before you launch. A lot of businesses don't do this, and it comes back to bite them. Entity selection. What's the right entity for your business? Do you need to be an LLC? Do you need to be a corporation? Can you just be self-employed? A guy with a truck? A guy with a van? This is all going to depend on your industry. Something you'll need to chat with a professional about. Banking. Who am I going to bank with and how should it be set up? You want to make sure you understand what you're getting into when you get to banking relationships. Personally, I prefer local banks wherever possible, but it doesn't always make sense depending on your industry. Accounting system, what accounting system should I use? They're like cars. Each of them has different features. Record keeping, what do I need to think about keeping? This is going to vary based on your industry because some industries have different compliance requirements. Optimization, this is a biggie that no one really thinks about. What key performance indicators do I need to keep in track of, and when do I need to keep in track of them? Key performance indicators are things that tell you how the business is doing. Some of them will be financial, some won't. Again, it will vary based on your industry. Leverage. How can you maximize the use of resources? Best case here is you want to trade money for other people's time and other people's time for money. So essentially, you've turned it so your constraint isn't your time, it's money. And you're turning money into money, which you're then turning into money and making more money. The worst case here is to trade your time for money. A lot of people do this. They overstretch themselves when they start the business. They don't figure out what their weaknesses are and then hire people or find resources, trade services, whatever they need to do to offset those weaknesses. So the worst case here is to trade your time for money. The best case is to trade money as an investment, invest in other people's time, and then trade that time that you invested in for money, which you can then use to invest in more people's time to invest in more money, make more money. So you become to the point where your only constraint is money, and you're making money for money, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, think about it. It should. Moving forward. Number 4, what's your game plan for launching and growing the business? You need to start with the end in mind. This is the most important thing. I think this is from Stephen Covey. I don't remember where I got it from. But it's a beautiful thing. Start with the end in mind. If you don't know where you're going, any road will do. And it won't and somebody else and life will take you where it takes you. So you really need to think about this before you even think about opening the business. What do you want to do? That'll tell you what you have to do to get there. Another thing is don't blow the launch. The launch is your grand opening. When you open, you get a certain sort of new business feel, like a new car feel, that you need to maximize. If you maximize it, your business will grow. Your launch is the point at which your business is running. If you do well in your launch, it'll kickstart you into growth. You need to have very specific targets, both in the launch, the pre-launch, going forward. You need to know the number of sales. You need to have targets for number of sales. You need to have revenue. You need to have dates. And these need to be backed up with research into the market you're selling in. That way you can track where you are compared to where you should be. You also need to plan out how the business is going to operate and from where and how you're going to reach potential clients or customers. This is a combination of operations and marketing. These two things have to tie together, or otherwise your business will not grow. When operations is great and marketing is great, you've got a business. It's working wonderfully. Another thing is don't underestimate the value of your neighbors. This is particularly true if you're running a site-based business. Think of how can I use my neighbors, if you're in a strip mall or in a mall, how can I use my neighbors to bring me business? A key thing if you're a restaurant here would be, if you're a restaurant in a strip mall, or you're a restaurant and you're next to shops or business buildings, those people have to eat lunch. So you start going door to door and giving out coupons, and before long you're going to have people at your door. Or you say, hey, you give out coupons, you say, hey, call ahead, we'll have your lunch ready for you. They'll be there. But a lot of people don't think about that. They don't reach out that way. So don't underestimate the value of your neighbors. Again, consider bringing in professionals where appropriate to assist. Like I said, if you don't know hustle, bring in a hustler. If you don't know marketing, bring in a marketing person. If you aren't great at accounting, bring in an accountant, bring in a lawyer, etc., etc., etc. It's an investment, not a cost. Okay, so moving right along into number 5. What's my end game and how am I going to get there? Start with the end in mind. This is the most important thing. If you don't know where you're going, life will take you where it will. Your game plan needs to account for your end game. Some options here. You might want to get bought out. You might want to keep the business, grow it as big as possible, then pass it on to your children, grandchildren, best friend, best friend's dog, best friend's cat, whatever it is. Make sure everyone knows what the end game is, especially if you're planning to pass the business on to family. Otherwise, they may have their own goals and ambition. And a key thing here is to get professional advice early and often. It's cheaper to do estate or succession planning before things get messed up or the need is imminent. It's better to spend some money now to avoid spending a big chunk of money later or having everything you worked for get tied up in legal fees. Trust me, it's no good idea. Okay, so moving right along from there. Actually, that's pretty much the end of the presentation. I hope you got a lot of value today. Again, this is pretty much just to add value as you're making a lot of major life decisions. Starting a business is a major life decision. You really need to think about these 5 things before you start a business. Feel free to respond below or shoot me an email with any questions you've got. My email's below, and then my office line where you can book phone consultations if you want is below. I'm not saying you have to. If you want to, great. If you don't want to, great. That is my personal my real email. So if you email that, I will answer it, not staff. If you call the office, though, staff answers that line because I'm usually with clients or with or working on projects. So you can reach out to me if you have any questions or there's any issues with this presentation. But again, thanks for watching. Hopefully you got some value for today. And then if you got some value or you know somebody who could use this presentation, my only request would be, as a favor to me, please feel free to share this with them, and hopefully they can get some value with it as well. Like I said, this isn't a sales pitch. This is just primarily to add value. So hopefully you think about these questions and you take them into account. And I'm pretty sure if you do, your business, when you launch your business, if you decide to launch a business, it will go a lot smoother than if you didn't. With that being said, best of luck to you. Have a great night.